Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art and Talk. Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you're having a great holiday season, and Art and Talk is going to be bringing you some holiday cheer with this interview. As you know, Art and Talk is all about meeting artists and being inspired. We hope you've had some moments to check out some of our artist interviews on our YouTube channel. And of course, we hope you're drawing inspiration from them as well. We're also bringing you today a new genre. Our guest is a sand sculptor, and he, in the West Palm Beach area here locally, he and his team have created these amazing large scale sand art creations, these amazing sand sculptures. And of course, there's holiday music and a light show. So if you are in the West Palm Beach area or traveling through South Florida, you definitely want to check that out. And our guest also travels worldwide and creates these sand sculptures in a variety of different themes, subject matters, nationally and internationally. So we'll be touching upon that as well and looking at some examples of his fantastic sand sculptures. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome the lead sculptor of Team Sandtastic, Mark Mason. Hi, Mark. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Leslie. I'm glad our big sandy Christmas tree in West Palm Beach wooed you to call on us.
Yeah, absolutely. The past couple years, been going to that, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So we're delighted to have you here and have you share your creativity and your passion and this whole amazing sand art. So tell us, how did all of this begin, Mark?
It began as a hobby, turned into a passion, and then a profession. I got into it like a lot of sand sculptors in the idea that competitions would kind of have the cream rise to the top, and the best folks would get recognized, obviously, with the trophy or the prize money, but they'd also get recognized from the sponsors who put on the contest. Lo and behold, people would call those, like the Sun Sentinel newspaper down near you is where I grew up, in Fort Lauderdale, site of the world's oldest ongoing sand sculpture contest every 4th of July. We started doing something unheard of, which is practicing ahead of time for it. And I had a team that relied on me to come up with the ideas and call the practices. I had restaurants that would literally give us free food and drinks because it drew a lot of people to their restaurants when we practiced in front of them. And I realized that there was a viable business in taking pictures of our work and moving on. People would call the Sun Sentinel newspaper and they'd say, we want one done for a birthday party or a convention booth at the Fort Lauderdale Convention Bureau. And the folks there would say, you got to call Mark. He is so into this. And we fielded those calls, took pictures of our work, built a portfolio, and it's been my living for more than 32 years now.
Wow, that's amazing. So everything just kind of grew and grew and grew. And take us back a little bit now, before the first couple of competitions with sand art and growing up in South Florida, as you were saying, in Fort Lauderdale. Now, were you like, as a little kid, were you like on the beach and messing around with the sand? Like, did you have ideas about this? Did this all just kind of organically unfold for you?
Well, to go back in time, I do kind of look at how I developed the skills or the interests in such an ephemeral art. Fort Lauderdale, you would think, oh, he went to the beach all the time and made sandcastles, and I really didn't. Fort Lauderdale beach sand is not the best sand to sculpt in. It's kind of like resistance training. If you can carve in that, you can carve in much better sand, which is, I live in Sarasota, Florida, and we've got great sand here. But I was always into arts and crafts, always into making things and manipulatives and the actual production of things as opposed to having them in the end. My mother said I'd always work on something so long and just to work on it. And then at the end, either crumple it up and throw it away or just have no interest in, putting it on a shelf and kind of showing it off. So it was the actual process that I liked as opposed to the product at the end. And that is exactly what sand sculpture gives you.
Mhm.
Ephemeral art, continually something you can work on, never really done, one of those things. So perfect for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so fascinating how, everything kind of began with you, and then you were so fascinated with the process and not so much the product. And yes, how it fits hand in glove with the sand art, because it has that almost sense of impermanence, because once it's finished, it's finished, and then you kind of move on to the next project. And I was interested in your bio that you were also saying how each sand sculpture, wherever you go, and I know you travel nationally and internationally, not one of them is the same. So you're really process oriented, and with that unique sense of like being in the moment, the process, just the joy of creating it, not so much the end product itself. I mean, that plays a role, but you're just really into the whole like sand art, creating it and all that.
Absolutely. Yep. It's the process. It's like a performance art. A lot of times we'll carve in front of people, and that is what the client wants at a corporate party or in a shopping mall or something. It brings people when we're working on it. You get to see a blob of sand turn into a character.
Yeah, how magical that is. And I think that sand art really touches people's heart, and it just has that whole magical kind of like, vibe, fantasy vibe.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everybody's done it as a child, right? You've turned packed sand into a bucket and turned it over and tapped the edges, pulled it off. We just do that on a grand scale.
Let's go ahead and show the video so everyone can get kind of a wide view of some of the different places you've been and kind of see you and your team in process.
Okay, let's watch.
All right, give me just a moment and we'll pull that up.
All right.
So what'd you want to do when you grow up? Build sandcastles? Well, so did this guy. 20 years ago, Mark Mason founded Team Sandtastic.
Everybody's done it as a child. It's unique, it's fun, and lo and behold, that hobby turned into a profession. It's been my living for 20 years.
I'm probably one of the guys that is least likely to ever do a sand sculpture. Did any art growing up, played a lot of sports, chased a lot of girls.
Hello, ladies. Did you see them pick up their step a little bit?
I would say sand sculpting is like therapy, because I own a restaurant and it's a very intense profession, and it gets me away from the restaurant.
People come up and tell you, oh, look at that big kid playing in the sand. And
Watch out, Steve!
I wouldn't do it like that. How would you do it? I don't know, but not like that.
Oh, you...
I have a wife and a kid, and we don't live in a trailer or anything. We have a good life, and it's because of sand.
Well, as the new guy, I get your typical new guy razzing, and haven't experienced any hazing yet, but we'll see.
Well, I didn't say on this project, but I got some great friends.
Oh, that's good stuff. Give a big nod, yeah.
He didn't say anything.
You have awesome guys you're working with, like awesome, except for Dean. But everybody else is really, really awesome.
This one is kind of one of my favorite types of themes. It's very interactive. It's going to contain 400 people having dinner inside it on Friday.
What better place to do it than in the Caymans? Yeah, the sun, the sand.
It's a little cold, America.
It's something everybody's done as a child, turned a bucket upside down, and we've just taken it to this level.
Pile of junk. There's one beautiful pile of junk.
How do you keep it together?
Oh, I eat right, diet, exercise,
No, the can.
Sometimes this job is a tough yoga move. of being bent over for hours on end because the sculpture doesn't come to you. And then sometimes you stand up and realize that this is one cool office to work in. It's not a bad business.
And it's not.
Yeah,
It's a fun office.
yeah, absolutely. Being right there on the beach and the sun, the sky, and the surf. What a beautiful, beautiful environment.
It can be. We do indoors and outdoors. So sometimes you're in a convention booth for a week at a time or something, or it can be we've dropped sand in the oddest places. 50 tons of sand on Military Island in the middle of Times Square.
Oh, wow.
We brought the beach to them and did something huge for USA Network, one of their TV shows. Just fun stuff, just crazy fun stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and we get to see in that video too, Mark, the camaraderie, with your team as well. And, just like that fun, lively vibe. I'm wondering, in terms of the actual vision, each project, each, sand sculpture is going to be unique in a different place and have a different vibe and whatnot. So how do you come up with the actual vision for it? And can you touch upon the process that goes into before, if there is one, before you're actually right in the sand and creating the sculptures?
Well, a lot of times the direction you're talking about says, oh, give me a sketch of exactly what it will look like when you're done. And that's a tough thing to do because it's a very fluid medium, let alone timeline of working on it, in the way that we make our own medium. A loose pile of sand, let's say you have 10 tons of sand, okay, and it's in a loose pile, you can't do anything with that. You have to initially spend X amount of your time, a third of your time or a fifth of your time or half your time, depending on the logistics, compacting and prepping the sand before you can carve it. So really it's how well that sand will compact allows how sheer you can carve it or how much detail you can get out of it. And you really don't know that until your hands in the sand working on it. So when people say, I want to know exactly what it looks like when you're done, I'll say, well, tell me exactly when the sand's going to be dropped, exactly the type of sand it will be, and the PI factor and the slump factor and the sieve size and everything. And well, I don't know that, they'll say, and I'll say, well, then it's as much as we can get out of the time given and the material dropped.
So it's really a matter of the consistency, what you're saying, of the sand, and you're not going to know that until your hands are actually in it and you're playing around with it, and then you get a feel for how it is.
It's true, and you don't know until you get there, and it's a matter of saying you need to rely on my 32 years of experience and happy clients that I will get the most out of that sand any other sand sculptor could ever get out of that sand. And that's been our company policy and been working rather well for quite some time.
Yeah, your sand sculptures are so amazing. And the ones in West Palm Beach, there's a whole variety of them. There's not just like one, there's many of them.
That's our 10th year there, you know that? You saw our 10th anniversary for Sandy.
Yes, congratulations with that.
Oh, too fun, thanks. Yeah, they've been a great client, and it's every year is a little bit different. True, it's a 35-foot high Christmas tree, 38 feet with the 3-foot star at the top. But we also do other sculptures around town. So you get a little map and you can go around West Palm Beach, right in that, Clematis Drive area, and go see all these other little sculptures we've done. It's a great little venue. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm wondering, so talking about the process before we look at some of your images, so a lot of it is what I'm gathering is actually in the moment creating it I mean, of course, you probably have some guidelines, as you were saying, from who's ever sponsoring it, and have some ideas being generated. But I'm just thinking in terms of the placement. I'm thinking in terms of the composition of your sculptures, because it's not just one. Typically, it's not just like one sculpture. It has all these different carvings within it, different characters, different objects. So does that placement and that dynamic aspect, is that just happen during the process, or these are things you're going to add, or is it a combination? How do all these come into factor, and like where you're going to place what, and of course the scale of the different things, all those art elements?
You're right. I didn't get to actually the final answer of how we design it, and that's what you're asking. It comes from a hierarchy of a list of icons that the client wants. First and foremost, West Palm Beach wanted that Christmas tree 35 feet high. So we have to make that, a certain finite number. Other than that, it's I would say themes to the other satellite sculptures. And we're pretty much giving carte blanche nowadays. It's been 10 years. So they were like, oh, everything you've added that we haven't even asked for has been a hit. So let's just let you do what you do. We're not there to carve the least we can. We're there to carve the most we can and make the most fun. And we're competitive, and we razz each other, but we're very physical and like to put a lot of energy into our pieces. How we design them, though, is peaks and valleys. So as much as you have the single peak of the Christmas tree, you always want to jet up to I guess at the edge of the tree, come to a valley, and then come back up with some other element, as opposed to fusing it against the tree to where everything just staggers out. And you'll notice that in all our sculptures throughout the years is that there's usually a singular peak, then a valley, and then a secondary peak and a valley, and a tertiary peak and a valley. That's kind of a common, what we call pound up, which is how we pack our sands into the basic shape, the basic building blocks of what we're going to carve into. Be it a medieval castle, or if you pull the rug out from under me and I packed up and gotten ready for a medieval castle, and then you said, oh, I've changed my mind. I want it to be SpongeBob SquarePants. Well, you know what? I'm going to have the same basic shapes. I want a high element in the middle, a secondary, a tertiary, and get a lot of profile. And now it's just going to be a pineapple instead of the castle and, SpongeBob. And I'm actually pulling from a true thing that happened. We were doing 2 sculptures a year for the Surf Expo in Orlando. So indoors and everything. And just at the last moment, they said, oh, can you change it completely? Right before we started carving. So we had already packed up and actually started the top elements. And they said, can you change it completely? We've got a sponsor in here that wants it completely different. And we said, sure, no problem. We went and grabbed some artwork and made something completely different. And from then on, they've really trusted us to kind of create things on the fly just for them. And I think that's a cool aspect of what we do. It's not just you pick something out of a book and we're going to make that one and it'll be exactly that.
Right. There's all that creativity involved and spontaneity as well. And is it correct, Mark, that you only use sand and water? There's no fixatives, no cement?
Nope. It's just sand. It's the fact that we pack the sand as hard as we do. Packed sand holds together even when it dries. What you're doing is you're increasing the surface tension on the sand grains due to packing it as hard as you do. A lot of people think we get it wet and we have to keep it wet, but really we only want it wet to make the sand grains fluid enough to pack as hard as we do. It's like a real light sandstone. Sandstone being sand that had a mountain on top of it, packing it for millions of years with rain percolating through it. We just speed up that process by getting it wet, kind of floating that sand into layers that pack down, densely tamping it with either a hand tamper or walking on it, or sometimes even a gas-powered jumping jack tamper that really hits the sand down real hard.
Mhm. And what about, what are some of the other tools that you use to create your sand sculptures, Mark?
Everything you need to be a professional sand sculptor can be found in your garage and your kitchen. Okay, so we're dealing with lots of stainless steel tools, or stainless steel kitchen utensils, spatulas, or what is commonly in our hands for small details are cake icing spreaders. Wilton makes just a great, it almost looks like a palette knife, but we kind of grind them sometimes to our own favorite shapes. And stainless steel doesn't rust at the beach. You might have a melon baller or some measuring scoops, and those are your shapes that you can pop out of your hand and make buttons and eyes and rivets and stuff like that. To move into the garage, you've got paint brushes that smooth and take away and blend. Margin trowels and spreaders, which are cement working tools, but we just use them for sand. A little less permanent, no chemicals, nothing's going to burn your hands. And a shovel. There you go, off you go.
All right, let's take a look at some of your beautiful sculptures, and we have a lot to look at, so we'll hopefully get to as many as we can.
Can I talk while you show them, and I'll just throw in an insert?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, this is in Hawaii. We opened one of the Swatch watch stores, and that's the professional surfer Duke, and the pineapple is a icon of hospitality.
Amazing.
Honolulu.
Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, we flew a team to Honolulu to carve on the beach. It was too fun.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
These are strips. So it's one JPEG, but it shows you all the different kind of angles and hero shots of this one's for a wedding. You can see the walkway at the top, and just our classic medieval castle, and the wedding rings in front.
Mm-hmm. And now what happens once the wedding is complete?
Well, when two people love each other, the honeymoon, what are you talking about?
Well, and in terms of the sculpture, once the I'm sorry, I meant the ceremony is over. Now what happens with the sculpture?
Oh, it's just a pile of sand on the beach. It will eventually erode, or oddly enough, what happens on the beach is usually birds land on the top of it because they love to be on the highest element on the beach, and they'll kind of crush the top pieces, and that rubble falls on the bottom, and it looks like a pile not too long from then. It's just a pile of sand. It just happens we carved really good details into it for a while.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of going back, Mark, into that sense of impermanence that we were speaking about. And what a fantastic idea for a wedding.
We do weddings and a lot of proposals. So you can pick some icons that are specific to you. A cute little saying, will you marry me so-and-so? And come upon it as you walk down the beach. It's been very effective. We're 100% yeses.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic.
Proven very romantic. Bermuda was a great client. We went there so many times, hosting contests, and then for this one we worked for the Grand Slam golf tournament.
All right.
Just to show you a bit of travel, Cape Town, South Africa, a tour through sand sculpture. So there's sand on each side of you as you tour through, just thousands of tons of sand that wind you down this huge tent we were under, working in the sand. And there's our team. Right on the V&A waterfront. I remember that. That was a hoot.
Great. All right, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Here we go.
Disney Cruise Lines. They have us out to their island quite often. Sometimes we'll even cruise out there with them and get off on the ship when they're docked there. They've already got a pile ready for us, and we carve photo ops for the guests. And we can change out the same pile to make it something new for all the guests, or it can be a private, like a VIP party. We've done corporate groups, and it's just been too fun. A great kind of symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, we're really getting a good feel for all the different ways, practically, that you can create the sand art and it's beneficial to a business, to a couple, corporation, basically, to anyone. It has so many different avenues of applications to it.
I agree. It proves very cost effective in the way of what you spend on fireworks or something like that. Here you've got something that, yes, is ephemeral, but it does last quite some time if you wanted to leave them up. They get a good week plus out of these on the island. So lots of people cruising in, taking pictures and enjoying it. Sometimes they'll have us out to recarve it into a new scene. It's a recyclable art medium, to look at it that way.
Right. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a family that has me out every now and then when they're getting together to do things. And Drew was going to graduate in 2022, and he was on the track team. So we did the track shoe, and just had fun carving for the day. They all pitch in, and it's a group effort, and they really feel participatory.
Wow, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah, so I think what we've done now is we've transferred from us just making a display sculpture, where sometimes people just see the finished piece, and that can be cool, to we've moved to maybe a performance art, where you've looked over our shoulders and felt I can ask a question, or I can talk to the sculptor. I'm watching him make this blob of sand turn into a character. And now we've actually invited the guest in, and we're going hands-on. These are family sand sculpting lessons, to where I work with the kids, let alone kids of all ages. So the adults always chime in and want to participate too. And we make something that the kids come up with that day. So we'll bring some artwork, come up with some ideas, and then here we made these kids and I made this together. They were so proud. We had such a good day.
Yeah, so it's really in these particular cases, Mark, it's a collaborative effort. It's you, your team, but it's also the families, the children, those that want to get some hands-on experience, and everyone's kind of getting involved into the whole creation of it.
And to back it up, they get into the design of it too. Just to bring the comics that day, you start to look at, a single panel comic can be done in sand. We'll do those characters and those bubble letters, and we'll make something fun and funny and whimsical on the beach. And that's, the kids were into, I forget the name of these characters, but these Pixar characters. And I said, like, what are they doing? One was playing basketball, one was swimming, and one was eating a banana. And I'm like, let's do it. So they were like, really? And that's how fast a medium it is to just come up with it and start making those shapes. And I'll actually point out that we've got the top element, and then a peak and a valley, and a secondary, and then a tertiary element. Just like if we were carving a castle, we'd have the same pile.
Yeah, that's I'm really glad that you brought that attention to us. So now we can visually see what you were saying in terms of the design and how you think it through, and the actual application of the sand sculpture itself. I'm wondering, Mark, what are some of the typical questions, like when you work with the families and the kids, what are some of the basic questions that you hear kind of over and over again? And what's the hardest aspect in terms of actually carving and creating the sand sculpture that you've observed?
Most people ask, if they just come up to the sculpture and haven't listened to my lecture of how there's nothing in the sand, they ask if we put something in the sand. They want to know how they're being fooled, right? Obviously, that's not real sand, or you couldn't do that normally in the sand because everybody would be doing it. Well, I disagree. Is if you really focus and put your energies into a singular vision, that is the sand that they're standing on, found material, but we've taken the time to shovel it up, pack it, run to the beach and run to the shore and get water buckets and get it wet and pack it correctly and make the top element, the secondary element, the tertiary element, give it the right peaks and valley design. And with that type of attention, you can really make things that stop people in their tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
And then you can just make a corporate logo. And you know what? Corporate clients love that. They just love it. So what you're looking at here is a little more formal. The last picture had the family going hands-on. Now we've got corporate groups. 40% of our business is corporate team building events. We get there hours early. We make their logo, which you can see is very accurate. This is just us working on that logo. Us as in my team, a professional made that logo and shoveled it up and got it all ready. And they walk out to the beach and ooh and ah, let's take a picture. You can see they're in the second shot there, they're standing behind it. And then I say, okay, give me a wave, give me a wave. Everybody takes a nice wave shot. Everybody maybe jumping or having fun. But that also creates an amphitheater to where we teach them the tips, tricks, tools, and techniques of professional sand sculpture in a little lecture we have. And then look back up to the top picture, you can see all the flags with all the tools lined up. Once we team them up, they're off to compete in their own contest or their own event of learning these techniques of sand sculpture and creating, obviously, Memorial Hospital icons. Fawcett Memorial Hospital, these workers have things that they all know, that makes it cohesive to them, their business, their job. And it's so fun to have them portray that and build those storylines out on the sculptures. And that's what we get them to do. They have a great time. It's ephemeral. It's not like this thing that's going to be put on display in their lobby or something. It's just a fun day at the beach. And I mentioned everybody's done it as a child. So that's not, you're not starting from ground zero. Though you will hear people, oh, I'm not an artist. I only have, I have 2 left thumbs or something like that. Well, they might be a great shoveler, so they might be the energy that creates a nice big pile while the designers and the artists go off to, almost set up what the primary, secondary, and tertiary piles are going to be and tell that story in their sculpture. So it's a super way to collaborate these teams and get fun, corporate specific storylines out of their sculptures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you see that everybody has their role to play. I love how you make it fun, and there's also a learning, teaching element as well.
I agree. I concur.
Oh, and look at this one.
Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. The president of RCCL took one of our corporate team building events and he said, this is the coolest thing ever. I want you to go to our island. We went out to Labadee in Haiti and carved big sculptures for them. And he says, we're launching the largest cruise ship in the world. I'm going to fly you to Oslo, Norway. We're going to put you and make you build something on the boat for our initial voyage. And here we are carving on the largest cruise ship in the world for RCCL.
Amazing.
It was just a hoot.
All right.
Jeep was such an awesome client. Had us go to all the international auto shows. This one was in Sweden. But we were carving everywhere, Mexico City, Chicago for America. God, just all over, just country after country, all the international auto shows. And, Jeep loved the idea that here's this kind of real natural art, just like their cars are built to be outdoors in a natural sandy or dirty setting. And just a great relationship there for a while.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Too fun. Here's something with a sense of scale. That's at the bottom picture is one of the sculptors, one of the 3 that worked on this, finishing the logo. But it gives you a sense of how big these heads are for Mount Rockmore, for Hard Rock Park in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Mhm. Can you give us a sense of the height?
Well, that's me in the white hat on the right in front of Jimi Hendrix before I decided, you know what, he needed a headband. So if you see I'm carving it without the headband, but I stood back and went, nah, he needs a headband. So if I stood up, he'd probably be, the heads are 7 feet high, I'm guessing.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. We'll keep going here for a little bit.
We started doing things for specific photo ops. People love to capture these. Everybody's got a camera nowadays. Come on, it's on your phone. So at the end of marathons, you come to the shoot, it's called, when you turn in your badge or your marker off your shoe, and they give you your medal. And then they usually give you a drink or some type of prize or, you know, little trinkets or something like that. But then they just kick you out to go listen to music and go have a bagel. We put this together mimicking the trophy that they got, or the medal. So this year's medal was these 2 mermaids with the finisher medal. And when you finished the marathon, you got right behind the Publix logo there, and you took a picture with your medal in front of the sand sculpture of the medal with, you know, that year on it. And that's, you know, they sold it like one of the best selling photos of the marathons. When you, at the end, you get to pick from their website to buy them.
Mhm.
People loved these.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
I
I'm
think
wondering-
that's our 14th year doing that one.
Oh, wow, 14th year. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. When you're working with the elements of the human form, whether it's the face, or here we have the mermaids that still, you know, have elements of the human form. Does that just come as easy to you as when you're sculpting, you know, other objects and shapes that are not the human form?
You know, that's probably the most artistic question you can ask, because human form is tough. If you're carving a cow, you can mess up and people will be like, I guess that's a cow, you know, because they don't really know how big a cow nose is. But boy, you want to carve a human, you know, you better be within some tight tolerances. And that being said, that's what you want to do. You want to push yourself and say, you know, can I make a pile of sand with clamshell bikini top be sexy, or, you know, be cool? Can I give a sense of flow to hair and stuff like that? I will freely admit what you're looking at here. One sculptor did one on the right and another sculptor did one on the left. They're different. And there's pros and cons to each one. It's just completely sculptor style.
Mhm.
What's funny is we always say a sculpture kind of looks like the sculptor. When you're doing a human form,
Mhm.
even if you're mimicking, you know, a sports idol or something like that, you know, you're going to carve Oprah Winfrey, there's going to be some aspect of you in there. It's funny. And when you look at things and you know who carved it, you're like, oh, I see what he did there.
Oh, that's
or
funny.
she.
Right, right. Beautiful. Okay. Wow.
Oh, too fun. You know, the idea that we're 3D art has been found by, I guess we're hitting good keywords, because people look up 3D and go, oh, we should have a 3D sculpture for our 3D IMAX film. And they did dinosaurs and we carved dinosaurs.
Mhm.
That was great. That was a fun one.
Yeah, so amazing, so cool, Mark.
Thanks. Do a lot of events in the Mideast, and this took us to Kuwait. It's a shopping mall. A souk is a shopping mall in Kuwait, and just great way to travel, great way to see the world. Always, you know, we're the Americans, but we're the sand sculptors. It's kind of confusing, so it makes people do a double take and wonder who you are, what you're doing there, why they would fly you all the way over, you know. And it's this big pile of sand in the mall, which, why did they do that until you start to pack it up, and they're still wondering why you're doing that, even though you've been spending 3 days packing it up. And then you start to carve something cool and they're like, oh my God, and they want to see it finished. They want to see it finished. So there's this life cycle to the events we're doing. And that was a good one right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We carve for commercials and photo shoots. This was a full-size, queen-size bed for a flyer, kind of a brochure, a mail-out brochure. Hold on, 7th Avenue, I think it was called, maybe 8th Avenue. You'd think I'd remember my client, but I remember the sculptures. And they got this model to make it look like she's quote unquote making the bed, but she's got my carving tool in her hand and she's acting like she's making the pillow. And the flower vase is truly just sand. And we just very carefully place those flowers in there and let them go. And darned if it didn't hold up flowers. That's right on Siesta Key, right where I live. Actually, Lido Key.
Awesome. Just amazing.
Not too fun. I think you did a promo with that one, but I like oversizing things. I like when you look at something small and say, gosh, if I really blew that up and had fun with it, I'm going to do that in my next sand sculpture. So I did this on the beach, and it was for a family doing their Christmas card.
Oh, very nice.
I took my picture before they came.
Okay.
Now we've jumped to a whole nother way to treat sand. Rather than build it up, we're roughing it up with a rake and creating shadows that make things darker and lighter and everything. So this is rake art. And we have a website, rake-art.com, that shows us traveling the world making rake art.
Wow.
Get a sense of scale by that person up in the top left. That was huge. That was big.
Right. Wow.
And then right down to small little things. This is in a Publix shop, Publix grocery store. Just a little something. It was actually for Pepsi sponsored it, but Santa talking to a little boy, little tabletop sand sculpture.
Nice. Really brings out the innocence and childlike nature.
I think I could have made them a little smaller, but hey, it's hard to carve small. Back to corporate team building events. We do their logo. They come out, they take pictures. This was for a high school softball team. Just having fun at the beach.
And it adds a whole new element to the corporate picture or the athletic team picture. It just brings that whole different sense of dynamic and into the photograph itself.
It's usually their mascot and their icon, and we've got a perfect example here. The Quinnipiac. Sorry, I don't know exactly, but a lot of times we don't even know what we're carving. Like we have this picture. And we know it says Quinnipiac, so we carve that, and maybe during the event they tell us what we carved.
Wow, very cool.
Need to know. This is a contest piece that a friend of mine and I did in St. Petersburg, Russia, and that we thought we'd bring American tourists to St. Pete, Russia. That's the Hermitage Museum in the background. Just a phenomenal client who took us out every night and showed us the town. Did you know that St. Pete, Russia is the Venice of Russia? That it was based on Venice with all the streets really being waterways? Who knew? I didn't until I got there and they said, we're going on a tour tonight in a ferry or a boat, and we're going to go see the town. It was just too cool.
Right.
I never would. Yeah, I'd never go to that country or that town without being sponsored and.
It's just amazing, Mark. Not only your talent and your team as well, but these different places that you've traveled, and as we were saying, the different applications of the sand art, just in so many different avenues, and just the traveling and the experiences that you have had. I mean, just really absolutely amazing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I think I do like the idea that it surprises people that it's such a viable business that it can take me and my team across the globe.
Yeah.
What a hoot. This isn't even actually far from my home on Anna Maria Island, but for years we were doing a Christmas scene that brought so much traffic to the restaurant that had us on the side there that it just was such a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us carte blanche. They said, you know, just have fun with Christmas scenes, and I did everybody has their little sections, and I did Charlie Brown that year.
Mm-hmm.
And,
there's a nice situation where you were, as you were saying, you kind of had like open, creative freedom. It wasn't, so much, specifics like where it would be in a corporate logo, or as we looked at, the softball team, this was kind of like just, all right, you and your team just go for it, with the backdrop of of Christmas.
True. And it gets back to kind of doing that sketch ahead of time. You don't know what you can bite off, so you might be very tentative on adding things to a sketch. But when we were in this and everything was running like clockwork, we added a lot of elements. The sculpture over on the right with the reindeer licking the elf and everything. I don't think that was even in the plans until we said, hey, we got an extra day and a half, let's do some elements. And oddly enough, the back of that sculpture is a whole bunch of other scenes too. I mean, we put a lot into these pieces.
Yeah. Great. Let's take a look at a couple more.
My alma mater up in Florida State University, the 7 Wonders of the World. Not really. I don't think the Statue of Liberty is one of the 7 wonders, but we were having fun.
Yeah. Love it.
7 icons of the world. How about that? A commercial for Shaq, who came out and actually borrowed my tool and acted like he was carving it in the shot. But that was his new logo to his clothing line, and they wanted it on South Beach with a lifeguard stand in the background. And I said, sure. So I got down there and shoveled that up in the morning because they wanted to shoot it early. And Shaq came out, and he was a very nice guy. It was fun to meet him and see, I guess, the public's reaction to such a huge human being standing amongst them. That was just such a juxtaposition to see all these people and then him 3 feet above them. It was just crazy.
Okay, so now we're moving in a different direction. We'll take a look at some of these, because you not only do sand sculpture, but you also do snow sculpture.
This is true. Same process in the way that we pack the snow into an initial block. But snow has different capabilities than sand. Sand is all compaction strength, very little tensile strength. And snow has great tensile strength. You can really do a character with her arm straight out, and it holds on. In sand, you could do a character with her arm out, but you'd have to create some type of icon or element below it to brace it up. So with a turn of the weather, yeah, we'll move to snow.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share. So yeah,
we could do that all day. It brings me back to all those jobs. It's just too fun.
Yeah, and I know there's so many more of your snow sculptures that you do, and I love when you say that the seasons change or the weather changes. Okay, well, we can still do our sculpture. It doesn't matter.
It's true.
Yeah.
There's always something to manipulate, some found object.
Yeah, this has been such a fascinating journey into sand creations, your immense talent, your team, and all the different places nationally, internationally that you've been able to go to and follow with your your creativity and your passion and your gifts and skills. Before we wrap things up, I'm just wondering, because you've done this for many, many years, you're very experienced. It's been over 30 years. What keeps it fresh? Is it just the going to even if it's a place you may have already been to, it's just the actual of freshness of creating something new? And how throughout these decades has your art evolved and changed? And what have you not created yet that maybe has kind of been tinkering in your mind that you're like, oh, I've got to create this, whether it's in sand or snow?
Well, I guess what keeps it fresh, it gets back to what we were talking about, in that we've never carved the same thing twice. So we're even if you said, come to my location and carve a medieval castle, we want the classic castle. Well, we can do a castle in so many ways, and with certain, I guess, techniques and details that there's so many permutations that we can just make something almost new for you. And as much as it'll have maybe our style in the way of, certain shapes to the roofs, or lots of columns and portcullis and stuff like that, it will be unique to your site and your pile of sand. And that is, I guess, that in itself is interesting enough, let alone the idea that if you said, what can you do in 3 days? And my abilities now at doing this for so long, I can do so much in 3 days for you now, that I'm going to push it to see, wow, I want to do a 3-day job and send it to my other sculptors and say, I did this in 3 days, and kind of set the gauntlet for how much can be done in 3 days. Because there's no finite, you've carved X amount of tons. Like, we carve exactly 4 tons a day, every day. No, if you can spend more time, or move your tool faster, or block something out that makes more sense in a faster way, you're going to give the client more. You're going to be more proud of your piece. And so we're always pushing it in that. And that to me is what keeps it interesting, is to see what you can get out of the time given, the sand given, and your abilities.
Yeah, so it's also kind of in a sense challenging yourself and pushing yourself to that next limit, and kind of keep breaking through and just staying with that and keeping that kind of,
I agree,
door open. Yeah,
I agree. It's not just a stamp. We're actually in there manipulating it and juggling the percentages of time to pound up, and time to carve, and time to go home, if you can call it. But you ask, what is it that I want to do that I haven't done? I'd really say nothing in the way of, oh, there's this icon I want to carve, or something like that. I do find myself focusing more and more on interactive pieces. When you saw the wedding one, and you were kind of like, wow, what a great idea. That was my thing of saying, great idea. Let's be more interactive and get the proposals. We actually have people have dinner inside our sand sculptures. We have dine-in sand sculptures and sand lounges when it's not even dinner, it's just drinks, but we make it functional, ergonomically designed chairs and thrones and seating and fire pits in the middle, all out of sand. And here you're going to go and interact on the beach and be in the sand. And it's comfortable and functional. And it was just because we took the time on that same sand you're standing on and made something that wows the guests, wows our clients.
Yeah, what a creative vision to come up with that. So now it's not just a sculpture. Yes, it's a sculpture, but it's interactive. That is a whole new kind of atmospheric, really feeling inside the sculptures. You were saying that some of them are, and they're dining and fire pits. How cool is that?
True that. True. That's where I'm headed. That's what I like. Yep.
we do need to wrap the show up, Mark. We'd like for you to let us know where viewers can stay in touch with you, your social media links, and if there's anything else that you'd like to add before we close the show out.
Well, let's see. What would I add? That's always the last interview question. Is there anything we missed, anything you want to add? And usually we hit upon everything that I just, I love looking at all those pictures, so to tell you all about them is just such a treat for me to share them with people. We've got hundreds and hundreds of pictures on our website in all the little nooks and crannies we've carved in the different kind of avenues and venues we've sought out throughout the years. Our social media, our website is my best kind of quote unquote social media, which is teamsandtastic.com. We also host sandtastic.com without the team because I wanted that website. So, and we're trying a different way in that way. Social media, we have Instagram, which is Sandtastic_USA. Lots of pictures there, lots of videos on that one. And then my personal one is at Sandsculptor, SANDSCULPTOR. And that's a lot of my sketching and some of my sand sculptures and poppy seed art, pushing around poppy seeds on a cutting board. And I love the pictures and created a little website. Just lots of found art directions I've taken things.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely stay in touch and see what your new creations are. And I love your bubbly creativity and these amazing sculptures that you create and that share with everyone and so many different functional aspects as well. And, with your team. Thank you so much, Mark, for taking us on this journey.
Leslie, thanks for having me.
All right. And wishing you a great holiday season and lots of magic.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Yes,
So long.
yes. Thank you, everyone, for watching Art and Talk, and wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a joyful holiday season, filled also with lots of magic and wonderful moments and lots of great health and joy. So again, thank you so much for watching Art and Talk, and you can stay connected with us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also like and follow us on Facebook. We appreciate your support, and we'll talk soon on the next Art and Talk. Until then, be well and be blessed.